It's strange since I once said, no, never, what the hell, go back, not me. After a while, I thought, why not? If we wanted to record or do something. Everyone constantly imagines the stage show to me if we work together again in the studio. The name Julian Lennon evokes history, grief, and rebellion. Julian, son of John Lennon and Cynthia, grew up in the shadow of his father's stardom. His father's love story went elsewhere. Despite finding his own path in music and art, Julian felt deeply hurt and distant. Who does Julian hate most? Join us as we explore Julian's complex emotions and complicated familial dynamics. Before we discuss Julian's journey, let's look at his birth and how his parents' love shaped all that followed. Complicated start. Growing distance. Liverpool College of Art students John Lennon and Cynthia Powell met in 1957. John's boldness and unrepentant personality stood out even though Cynthia was engaged. After she rejected him, he famously said, "I didn't ask you to marry me, did I?" They started dating and married in 1962, after Cynthia fell pregnant with Julian, despite John's Beatles renown. Their marriage wasn't perfect. John had trouble managing his emotions, which hampered his relationship with Cynthia. In a 1980 Playboy interview, John admitted to being violent, adding, "I used to be harsh to my woman. Physically. Any woman, I hit." He realized this after meeting Yoko Ono, who encouraged him to rethink his views on women. Still, John's jealousy often led to anger in his early marriage with Cynthia, causing tension and dread. At the height of Beatlemania, John and Cynthia were encouraged to hide their marriage. The Beatles' managers worried it would hurt his reputation and alienate fans. While John's celebrity soared, Cynthia was often overlooked. John's personal life changed with the Beatles. He started taking LSD about this time, which Cynthia said altered him. He seems remote and lost in another universe, she thought. John started dating Yoko Ono, adding to the stress. An avant-garde artist he met in 1966 at a London gallery. This meeting changed his life and devastated Cynthia. Final blow, Yoko in a bathrobe. Yoko's frequent calls and trips to their home in 1968 raised Cynthia's worries. John said Yoko was just raising money for her avant-garde balls when she challenged him. He merely looked up and said hi. Cynthia left the house to stay with friends, shocked and upset. The incident devastated her, but the real anguish came later. Magic Alex, a Beatles friend and engineer, claimed to have spent the night with Cynthia after she left John and Yoko that night, adding to the mayhem. Martis informed Cynthia, weeks later, that John wanted a divorce and wanted custody of Julian due to her infidelity. John first made these allegations, but he eventually let Cynthia file for divorce on the same grounds, resulting in an out-of-court settlement of £100,000, a modest annual stipend, and custody of Julian. John's farewell and new beginning. John and Cynthia's divorce marked a new beginning for both of them. Cynthia often wondered if John's LSD use had made him lose interest in her, starting the end. An incident in Wales brutally revealed her role in John's life. When a police officer didn't identify her and stopped her from riding with the Beatles on a train, Cynthia realized how disconnected she was from her husband's public and private life. John and Yoko's connection intensified after the divorce. Just months after the split, John married Yoko in 1969, starting one of music's most famous marriages. John died tragically in 1980, ending their relationship. Yoko was surprised when Mark David Chapman, an infatuated fan, shot John outside his New York City home on December 8, 1980. After being transported to the hospital, Johnny was proclaimed dead, devastating the world and Yoko. Premeditated, Chapman's actions were terrifying. He stayed put and waited. He read Catcher in the Rye till the police detained him. Since then, he has been denied parole and imprisoned, while Yoko honors John. Cian, their kid, symbolized John's new life after his tumultuous marriage with Cynthia ended. What about Julian? Beatles' son, Julian Lennon's adventure. Growing up as John Lennon's son was magical, famous, and hard. The Beatles' celebrity around Julian Lennon's April 8, 1963 birth in Liverpool. Julian's father, John, named him after his mother, Julia Lennon, who died years earlier. He had Beatles manager Brian Epstein as his godfather as a child. As wonderful as it seems, Julian's childhood wasn't easy. Julian was young when his parents divorced, and his mother, Cynthia, bore the brunt of John's celebrity. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, one of his father's most famous songs, was inspired by Julian's watercolor of his buddy Lucy O'Donnell surrounded by stars. Fame may have lightened Julian's young life, but it didn't last. After John left Cynthia for Yoko Ono, his parents divorced when he was 5. Julian was traumatized by his divorce and grew up without his famous father. Julian was suffering, so Paul McCartney penned Hey Jude to comfort him. McCartney changed Hey Jules to Jude because Jude was easier to sing. Julian's relationship with his father would continue rocky, but these times showed others' affection for him. School days and art appreciation. Julian lived with his mother, Cynthia, who tried to give him stability when his parents divorced. Julian attended Kingsmead School in Hoylake, England, in 1974. His mother remarried, and they relocated to Wales soon after. He attended Ruthin School, a Denbighshire, North Wales private boarding school. Julian had a strong sense of creativity and a love of music and art, growing up without his father's influence. Julian's father inspired songs and encouraged his interest from afar, despite their emotional and geographical distance. Julian loved music, and his father's then-girlfriend, May Pang, urged them to reconnect during a rare visit in the early 1970s. After spending time together, John bought Julian a Gibson Les Paul guitar and drum machine for Christmas, kindling his music interest. John taught him chords, a lasting gift. Although rare, these moments shaped Julian's early musical tastes. Julian found comfort in his music-based relationship with his father later in life, despite their difficulties. Upcoming music career. Julian's music career began at 11, when he appeared on his father's album Walls and Bridges. He played drums on Yaya and quipped that he would have performed better if he knew it would be on the album. The album notes listed Julian as starring on drums, setting the scene for his music career. Julian's style was shaped by the Beatles, David Bowie, Steely Dan, and a CDC as a child. Julian's 1984 debut album, Veloute, was a hit. Phil Ramone produced tracks like Too Late for Goodbyes, earning him a Grammy nomination for Best New Artist. The album's popularity was bittersweet because Julian's skill was often compared to his father's, making it hard for him to find his own voice. Paul McCartney sent Julian a telegram wishing him well, indicating his father's friend's support. Julian's 1986 album, The Secret Value of Daydreaming, was less well received. It reached number 32 on the Billboard 200 despite poor reviews, while Stick Around got his first number 1 on the US album Rock Tracks chart. In 1987, Julian played the baker in The Hunting of the Snark at the Royal Albert Hall in London. His love of music moved beyond his father's influence when he performed with Chuck Berry later that year. Julian's career was rocky, but Now You're in Heaven was a hit in Australia. He continued to record, working with George Harrison on his 1991 album Help Yourself, which includes Saltwater. Julian also covered Ruby Tuesday for the Wonder Years soundtrack, demonstrating his musical flexibility. Refocusing on art, philanthropy, and music, Julian left music in the 1990s to focus on philanthropy and art after meeting the Mirning people of Australia. Their insight and connection inspired Julian to focus on his passions. Julian refused to follow his father's footsteps and remained independent, despite suggestions that he may rejoin the Beatles. When the Beatles anthology series was aired in 1995, Paul McCartney explained, "Why would we want to subject him to all of this?" The surviving members declined to reunite with Julian. Julian's 1998 album Photograph Smile was a serious comeback to music. Stephen Thomas Erlewine called the CD well-crafted and melodious, released on his own label. He said that the song would be better if it weren't composed by a Beatles son. Julian tried new things, recording When I'm 64 for an Allstate insurance commercial in 2002. Inspired by Lucy Vauden, he released Lucy, a tribute song to Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, in 2009. Julian dedicated this song to Nee O'Donnell, a childhood buddy who inspired it, and donated 50% of the revenues to lupus research. He also worked on digital initiatives, demonstrating his talent outside music. Julian's 2011 album, Everything Changes, was followed by the film Through the Picture Window, which included Steven Tyler and Bono discussing his creative process. Julian's artistic vision and current technology blended seamlessly in the documentary's app. Jude